Dangerous Animals is a brand new serial killer movie with a twist. It's on water, and instead of the killer murdering his victims with his hands, serial killer Tucker feeds them to the most feared animal in the ocean by humans, the shark. Focused on Zephyr feeling like she didn't have a place in this world and feeling more at peace on the water than what she did on land, we saw her mindset alter by the end of it due to the life-changing abduction and experience that she went through. So with that, I want to explore the deeper themes of this movie, discuss what it was actually about, and share if it's worth watching. So let's get into it. Here is a review of Dangerous Animals and the ending explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. I'm going to start with my review of the movie because I've got quite a bit to say about it. So I'm in two minds about this film because from a stylistic perspective, I thought it worked really well. It was nice on the eye and it was nice on the ears. But in terms of the story and the sheer amount of repetition that it had and the cliche ending with Zeph literally bringing Moses back to life by telling him that he was her purpose on land, it just killed it for me. For 2/3 of that movie, I was enjoying the ride, but it almost felt like the writers ran out of ideas and they just had Zeph go through the exact same experiences that she went through throughout the entirety of the movie to just fill the runtime. The plot armor was honestly insane. Tucker was stabbed and he survived. He was almost killed by Moses but was saved. He was locked below deck but, of course, he had a secret key. And he was knocked out cold but miraculously woke up instantaneously. When all of these things happen and they still keep finding a way to survive, it just gets a bit ridiculous. The same could easily be said for Zeph and Moses. Moses was stabbed multiple times and honestly, I'm shocked that he didn't die due to the sheer amount of blood that he lost. And then with Zeph, she was fed to the sharks and nothing happened. She was constantly chased and captured, which led Tucker to still not just kill her because she was problematic. But I do suppose that one did tie into the fact that it's all about the chase and what you go through to catch the fish, which in this instance was Zeph. And she also held her breath underwater for an amount of time that genuinely felt record-breaking. So certain characters having this shield of protection on them was something that I just didn't quite like. In terms of what I did like about the movie though, honestly, I thought the opening scene was fantastic. We spent the entirety of it being lured into this false sense of security where we knew that something bad was going to happen to Heather and the person that she was traveling with. And it felt like the tension was building and building, right up until the titles hit with the scream that Heather emitted. So I thought that was a nice touch. There was an old school horror style feel to that opening scene and I liked it. The poster is even designed in quite an old school way too, so I feel like that's the feeling that they were going for and it was successful. I'd say the use of sound was incredible in this movie. I actually think that could be my favourite thing about it. There was almost this uncomfortable, low, abrupt noise that would play, and it reminded me of the sound in the Purge movies whenever something terrible was about to happen. The motif made me feel uncomfortable, and it got that sense of dread across right through the screen. It would also play with the jump scares too, so it happened quite a bit. Whilst on the topic of jump scares, I feel they were done best during the first third of the movie, because the rest of the movie just became a bit predictable. But I'd say one of the strongest ones was probably when Zeph was taken and the bag was put over her. It came out of the blue and it worked so well. Another sound that I'd say felt tonally right was the almost screeching noise that would play when the hoist was being raised and the people were being put in the water. It was most present with Heather, and it was almost like a knife slashing, and it was another perfect example of making us feel really uncomfortable. Jai Courtney as Tucker was a really well-performed role. He reminded me a bit of James McAvoy in Split with the haunting nature that he had and the way that he just embodied this deranged killer so well. So he definitely stole the movie for me. I'm not gonna lie, I went through the entirety of this movie thinking that Hassie Harrison, who played Zeph, was actually Isabel May. So I know, I'm a fool for thinking that, but what I will say is her performance was really strong too. I got that sense of desperation that she had within her to escape and that fight to survive whilst also going on a journey of realizing that she did have a purpose. Heather was a character that I liked and I felt so bad for her when she was fed to the fishes. But Ella Newton's English accent really wasn't that convincing. I didn't know of her before this movie, but I could tell that she wasn't English just by the way that she was speaking. Whilst it doesn't make a world of difference to the story and what I think of the film overall, it was just something that I noticed with her performance. In terms of if this movie is worth watching, it pains me to say it, but I genuinely think the final third really lets it down. I just think it gets a bit too boring for its own good, too predictable, and the plot armor is way too thick. Whilst the final scene is the strongest, by the time we get to that point, I just feel like we've seen it play out so many times. Such as when she was captured on the beach just a mere few meters away from people, when she fought him off on the upper deck, and also when Moses was trying to take him out. The shark eating Tucker was satisfying to watch, but I just don't know if the entirety of the movie is worth it for that one scene. Plus, Zeph saying doobie-doo, or whatever she said as she killed him, took me out of the moment, and Moses waking up did too. Right, that's actually confirmed it for me. It's a solid movie that I feel just loses track of how many times it's done something, and whilst there is a sense of originality within it, the ending just makes it become another cliche movie that will probably get forgotten about. It is only an hour and a half long, so if you've got nothing else to do this weekend and you don't mind a bit of predictability with a story, head to a theatre and give it a watch. If not, you'll be waiting until July 22nd for it to come out on digital. The ending explained. So this whole movie was essentially about showing how Zeph was the shark and more at home in the water than what she was on land, hence why she didn't get eaten when she was placed in there, and it was also about her coming to terms with who she was as a person and realizing that she did have a purpose on land, despite what she originally thought. She described herself as a lost soul due to resonating to a song, and Moses was somebody that allowed her to find purpose due to the connection that they felt, albeit even if it was just after one night. Tucker viewed himself as this shark, the predator that takes what it wants when it wants and is feared by the humans. Whereas what this movie showed us with Zeph actually representing the shark was that sharks are these creatures that are perceived to be dangerous and are these ruthless killers, like Tucker was. But in reality, they're not. They're just out there trying to survive, and the humans are the problem and cause the most danger, which is why Tucker ultimately ended up being consumed by the shark in the end, and why Zeph didn't. Because even though he thought that he was one, he wasn't. He didn't respect them, and he was seen as the enemy. Zeph went through life feeling like she had nobody, and even when she was trapped on that boat, she thought that she was destined to die there because she didn't think anybody was going to be looking for her. However, like how Moses came for her and tried to rescue her in her time of need, she did the same for him right at the end of the movie after she rose up from the water. It was actually the very words that she said to him which enabled him to wake up after it seemed like he'd died, with her saying, "You're my purpose on land. I've got you." It showed that there was clear growth and development in the character, and we saw that she was no longer going to be this isolated person that looked at the world through the lens that she once did. It's a very cliche ending, but with Tucker, this serial killer that had killed many tourists and travelers over the years, there was obviously going to be a comeuppance. I thought it was interesting that when Tucker mentioned in the opening scene about when he was bitten by a shark, he said that it wasn't the shark's fault. And with him viewing himself as a shark and killing these women, it was as if he was taking the blame off of himself, and that was his justification. He enjoyed watching his victim's final breath and reliving the moment over and over again with the videotapes that he had. So he was almost channeling this perception of what a shark was, rather than the beautiful creature that it actually is, and the way that Zeph mirrored it. So, there you have it. A review of Dangerous Animals and the ending explained.